Aloha and good afternoon. My name is Jürgen Steinmetz, joining you from the Breaking News Show in Honolulu. And with me is Dr. Peter Talo in Fort, I'm, I'm sorry, I should know, in College Station, in College Station, Texas, not in Fort Worth, Texas. So that's both Texas I get, but he's in College Station in the middle of Texas. Peter, it's a wonderful sunny day here in Hawaii, really ideal beach weather. A lot of tourists here having a good time. How's everything in College Station?
Well, actually, we're pretty happy because Friday afternoon, it rained for half an hour. That's the first rain we've seen since May, and the temperature went down from about 106, which is about 41 degrees Celsius, down to in the low 90s. So it was down to like 34, 35 degrees, which is almost a cold spell for us. So right now the weather is pretty good. It's just around 98 to 100 degrees, which is actually typical summer weather here. Nice humidity, so it keeps your wrinkles away. And speaking about weather, there's been all sorts of weather around the world. Of course, you're probably aware of what happened in right in front of the White House when lightning struck three tourists who were sitting in Lafayette Park with no warning. They just killed them. And then in Rehoboth or in Delaware, I don't remember what beach it was, a gust of wind came and took all the beach umbrellas and it picked them up and threw them into the ocean. So we've seen some really interesting weather phenomena taking place. Also, the weather phenomena taking place in Death Valley, where you have, I believe, up to 1,000 tourists and staff members isolated because all of a sudden a huge rainstorm came and it washed out all the roads. So that's been some really interesting climatic events taking place in the last few days.
And of course, Death Valley is very surprising. It's supposed to be one of the hottest spots and driest spots in the United States, if not even of the world. It's always one of the hottest places.
So they do have
happen in Death Valley.
They do have tsunamis every once in a while, and when they do get a rainstorm, the land is so hard it cannot absorb the water, and that's when you get these flash floods that take place. So even 40 minutes of rain in the desert is really dangerous, and that's it. And Death Valley is so hot and so dry that a rainstorm, and they do get rainstorms. It's not that unusual, but when they get a rainstorm, there's no way to get the water to drain, and so that people, so all the roads just got washed out. People are stuck for 2-3 days, which is, I wonder if the hotel there charges you extra if nobody can leave.
Well, talking about nobody can leave. Yeah, and talking about isolation in a hotel, Peter, there is an interesting story in China. China really has a policy of no compromise to COVID, even though the rest of the world is opening up and COVID becomes a secondary issue, not in China. On the vacation island of Hainan, what's actually called the Aloha Island in China, there is a lockdown. 80,000 people are stranded in a part, I don't know exactly what part of Hainan,
it's
in a resort
Hawaii.
city. Yeah, it's they call it hello. They use the word aloha. They have flower lace. So they actually stole, I have to say this, many years ago, the logo for the Hawaii Visitors and Convention Bureau. No one here in Hawaii wanted to do anything against it because we had nonstop flights from China to Hawaii and we didn't want to upset them. So I guess if this happens today with the political climate, we'll probably be all over it. But in any case, sorry for 80,000 tourists being stranded in a hotel or in a resort because of a COVID case or so. So it looks like, I don't know, do you think it's a good thing to be so persistent on this?
No, I think the Chinese are using this as a social control method. And the bottom line is that the type of COVID that we have today is basically a bad cold. And we don't lock down cities and countries because of colds. You're never going to hit 100% COVID free. Once a virus is there, it's there. But viruses tend to become more contagious, but less powerful. So the original COVID really was very dangerous. But along the way, yeah, you have people who die of a cold, or you could have people who die of the flu. I mean, every year we have thousands of people die of the flu, but we don't shut the world down because of that. And I'm not sure why the Chinese are doing this, other than the fact that it's a very easy way to control their population. And I think it's really counterproductive. Of course, they don't have to go for elections, and they don't have midterms, so they have it's easier to run a country when you have a dictatorship.
Well, it probably is, and yes, I've seen some of the reports about control, and there's a control mechanism in place. There are certain areas actually in Beijing you can only pass through, and if you go to your own neighborhood with some kind of a COVID pass, and then sometimes if for some political or any other reason the government doesn't want you to go to another place, they just they just tell you your COVID risk and your clearance on the COVID app you need like every few yards to get to go anywhere turns red. So you're not going to get any further.
Yeah.
So
So I think COVID
strange.
is a
Yeah.
great excuse to control people. And if you have a country of 1,300,000,000 people, you worry about it. And I think, the Chinese also in the same way set up a little bit of a hissy fit when it came to Taiwan. And they turned, lots of US people visit Taiwan. And I think that this is an issue that's internal, and they're using external events in order to have internal control. And tourism becomes the whipping boy in the group that suffers because of it. So I'm sure the whole China must upset the entire Pacific Asian region because of the fact that it's so, these countries have to worry what happens if China invades or if there's a war.
Well, there's another situation I found quite surprising. All of us have heard about scams, specifically from Nigeria. This is no
Oh, yeah.
evaluation of Nigeria. There are many, many good people
They're
in
known as the
Nigeria,
state.
very smart people, but there are also some people are too smart in a criminal sense. And this apparently it's going on, and one of the victims are the airlines. Emirates Airlines, in particular, is now cutting service tremendously as of August 15th to Lagos, Nigeria, because all the tickets they sell in Nigeria has to remain in local currency in Nigeria. They cannot take back to another country or back to convert it into their own currency and send it to the UAE, convert it into dollars. It's sitting in bank accounts with no needs in Nigeria. So the money isn't stolen, it's still there, but it became unusable. And in addition to this, the if Emirates then is trying to pay fuel with local currency, they're not allowed to do that either. So they have to bring other currency in addition to the currency they lost. And they said enough is enough. But it's not only Emirates, it's not only Nigeria. There are 12 countries in Africa altogether right now involved in this same type of situation. Nigeria is just the absolute leader with the amount of money. It's $450 million by foreign airlines this year, but it's followed by other countries like Zimbabwe, Algeria, Eritrea, and surprisingly Ethiopia, because Ethiopia, with its own airline, part of the Star Alliance, Ethiopian Airlines, you would think, okay, there is a better international sense, even though Ethiopia is only 75 million, but the money is withheld from foreign carriers. And in the case of Nigeria, I'm sure that United Airlines and Delta, that both just started nonstop service to Lagos, are watching the situation.
I'm sure they are. And of course, part of the problem of Africa has always been they don't play by the rules. And, Africa should be a really wonderful tourism center, but it's not. And part of that is because they come up with these crazy, and it's a scam. And, you might not call it stealing in the technical sense of the word, but it's still stealing. If I say to you, I'm going to pay you with the Peter Tarlo currency, and by the way, you can't use it anyplace, but you have to accept this currency. I basically stole it from you, even though I didn't really steal it from you. So there's a different way of seeing it. And that's really going to hurt. First, it's going to hurt African tourism. And then on top of that, the airlines themselves are such scam artists. And think an airline ticket is the only purchase you can make that you can't give to anybody else, that you often cannot return. And if you don't use it, it loses all its value. That's also a scam.
Well, let me just to be fair here in two things. This is not isolated to Africa, even though in Africa 12 countries are involved. Globally, 20 countries are involved. So some of the worst offenders here is Bangladesh, and I think this is followed by Lebanon. And mostly these are countries, I think they're cash strapped, and this is just
Right.
a way of
But you know what?
holding on to cash.
But they may be cash strapped, but by doing something like this, you don't increase your cash, you lower it. Because all the airlines have to do is say, we're not going to go there. And then all whatever they were getting, whatever benefits they were getting of foreign people coming, and they're also hurting their own citizens because now their own citizens have less ability to fly. And I think we should concentrate on Africa a little bit because Africa would like to have a major tourism component, and they don't. And they should be they have so much to offer in Africa, but because of, let's call it semi corruption or pseudo corruption, um, they don't take advantage of their natural beauty. There's so many wonderful attractions, and yet businesses aren't going to want to do business with them.
Yeah, and again, it's not all of Africa. I mean, there are
I
clear
understand that.
advantages, and you can see where tourism is booming better, like in countries like Kenya, Tanzania, South Africa. They're not involved in it, so it's not fair to say it's all of Africa,
No,
of
no
course.
one's saying that. But what I am saying is that often, very often, many African nations shoot themselves in the foot. And this is an action that will not hurt help those countries. It will hurt those countries.
Yes, absolutely. Eventually, it will. Even though the good news is in global aviation is expanding. It's expanding beyond its own capacity. There's not enough pilots to operate airlines. So depending how rich of an airline you are, you can get pilots, and if you don't have the resources, you don't get pilots. Um, and just another thing I detected, and just to be fair, again, you said buying airline tickets is a product you cannot change or give to anyone else. There are exceptions. Actually, one of the exceptions is Oman Air. You can buy a ticket on Oman Air, and if you don't go, you can just give it to someone else. They
All
change the
right,
name
but
for you for
Jürgen,
free.
Thomas, how many people in the world are flying Oman Air? If I can't do it, most people are going to buy a major U.S. carrier or a major European carrier. And if I have a ticket on United Airlines or American Airlines or Lufthansa or Swiss Air or British Airlines, and I that's a purchase that once I buy it, I'm I'm kind of stuck, and I can't give that to somebody else. So Oman Air might be the exception, but I think it's so minimal that it doesn't really count.
Yeah, and there may be more. And obviously, I'm just trying to be fair because there are airlines obviously out there in their own turf trying to make a difference, and it's something what's commendable, and maybe others follow suit. You know,
I
if
don't
this is
think that's going
brought
to
up,
happen.
yeah.
It would be really nice, but what we're seeing on the airlines right now is very much the other direction. And I would probably argue you have a higher probability that Oman Air follows the major American and European carriers than they follow Oman Air. I could be wrong, but the odds are very low.
Yeah, well, we see. We better don't see. Let's see where
Yeah.
this goes and who can
But
learn
I think
from who.
most of us, meanwhile, you have all sorts of problems. Today, there were huge numbers of flights canceled on the East Coast. People were missing their flights right and left. It was all sorts of problems. And part of that is because of weather, but part of that is, again, there is a pilot shortage. And part of that is because many of the airlines refuse to allow pilots to fly without vaccination, even though the vaccinations don't seem to be helping. And we're now learning more and more problems about the vaccinations. So so they've lost lots of pilots, and they don't have people to replace them. And now they have an angry public that's getting angrier by the day. And people are wondering, why did governments in Europe and the United States bail out airlines when the service has gone down, not up?
Yeah, and it's an interesting development, not only in airlines, but also in the hospitality industry, in the health industry, that there is such in the retail industry, such a shortage of people. How do you see why this happened. Because before COVID in 2019, we had enough mates for the hotels. We had enough pilots,
Yes.
and our networks were increasing like they're now. And we had enough hospital nurses and doctors in most places, specifically here in the US. Why is this all changed and what happened? Why can't we
Well,
get the
I
same
think we
people
ended
back?
up with a tourism tsunami. And what I mean by that is that when COVID came, many in the hotel industry, restaurant industry, travel industry, airline industry, they said, we don't need you right now. We're dismissing you. So people went and they got other jobs. And then all of a sudden, the tourism industry came back, but with a gusto, with a huge number of people. And they don't have now people who are trained. They don't have people who are willing to work. And remember, at least in the United States, which is the main problem, the Biden administration has been pushing for giving out free money. So why should you work when you get almost the same amount of money for not working? And so what we see is you have low unemployment, very low unemployment, 3.2%. But if you measure the number of people working, the percentage of people working in the economy, lots of people have just dropped out of working and they've gone on welfare. And it's you make almost the same amount of money on welfare as you do on being a maid in a hotel. So why work?
Well, that is only a short time. I mean, you're not going to be on welfare for the rest of your life
Actually, many
very
people
easily.
are, and many
Well,
people aren't.
you have to tell me how to do that and make a living. I
Well,
don't
for
know.
example, I could go to Germany and I could do the same thing here. I could go to a place like Germany, declare myself a refugee, and you do very well. And we have a friend in Germany. We know people in Germany together who have been on all sorts of public assistance for a long time. And
Yeah,
you
it's
won't make
definitely
a lot of money. You won't make a lot of money, but if
exactly.
you're looking for subsistence in Switzerland, not only do you get a really nice salary, but if, God forbid, if you do work, you lose your vacation. I mean, people on welfare get paid government vacations, get health care, get all sorts of benefits. And when you start adding it up, it's almost cheaper not to work. It's more
Yeah,
efficient.
yeah. But if we look back here in the United States, it is surprising because we don't have the same type of welfare system you mentioned in Europe.
Except that if you look at all the money that the Biden administration has done, they've tried to create and copy it. And the more money that they put into those systems, the less people want to work. And you can't blame them. Why should you work if you can get free money?
Yeah, I think but the problem is also people have maybe shifted into other professions. I mean, to
Of
be honest with you, I mean, most people don't want to clean up hotel
course
rooms,
not.
you know,
Of,
and
of,
then when they have a chance to get trained into another profession, they're going to stick with this. Why would they want to come back to their old
no,
job?
they're not going to. But on top of that, you have the double one. Most professions are missing people right now. It's not just the tourism industry. And so those are people who just don't want to work. Those people who do want to work can get a better job than in tourism. And the tourism industry has not made its employment, um, they haven't gone out of their way to compete competitive. So, I was in a hotel about a week ago, and they said, because we care about you, we clean your room once a week. Who wants to go to a hotel and have your room cleaned once a week?
And that becomes a really normal. Maybe once a week it's a little bit extreme, but every 3 days is really normal now. That is
Yes,
not even unusual anymore, and it's just the way it is. But at the same time, not like room rates are going down, room rates are going up,
yes,
and you get less service for more money. And that, of
right.
course, is not very healthy.
Yes. So you're having that in the airline industry, the hotel industry, the restaurant industry, where food prices have gone through the roof. And as you know, our inflation rate in the United States when it comes to food is well over 20%. And restaurant inflation may be 23 or 24%. Well, you know what? It comes to a point where you just say no. So right now, people are still spending, but that the tourism industry is working very hard to kill the goose that's laying the golden egg.
Well, people are spending, and
Right.
I can see,
Currently, they are.
living here in Hawaii and see what tourists are doing every morning when I get my Starbucks or during the day, I go by this Christian Dior store. It's one of the most expensive brand name stores. And there's a line. No one else has a line, but there's a line to that store. So it's kind of tells you there's still a lot of money out there.
There is still a lot of money, but I think, unless there's a major turnaround in economies, that won't go on forever. So you don't want to live with fool's gold.
No, absolutely. Peter, thank you so much. I think we have an interesting session today.
All right.
And we see you again. Maybe next time we see you, you're going
to
be
I'll
in
be
Israel,
calling,
and we can talk from there.
I'll be calling in from Israel. Bye-bye.
Okay. Aloha. Bye-bye.